Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday. It's August 7th. It is 2024. We have a 7-game MLB slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today, I call him my good friend. We have been working together for a very, very long time. Dino, what's happening, my friend?
What's going on, dude? Well, thank you for having me back. I was on here a week or so ago, and the ratings soared. I don't know if you saw it. There was a big spike in ratings.
The reason that you had to come back is because chat was so mad that you were making and mocking the game. The ratings took a huge hit because you were mocking the morning grind game, and then like people started requesting that you had to come on to make
Take
up
my
for
lashings.
Yeah, like they said I had to bring you on because you were mocking my game.
Yeah, well, I will own it. We'll talk about it later on in the show, I imagine. But
I got the mute button ready. I got the mute and kick button ready. We're good.
I'm happy to be here. My fellow Hard Rock buddy. Yeah, well, the two of us are the only in Florida with our Hard Rock app. We're talking a little betting pre-show. Do want to give a shout out to Kevin Roth, Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth. I was on Grinders Live today. We yielded to crunch time, of course, and it wasn't on the slate, but Pittsburgh San Diego was playing. And Roth sometimes doesn't even know like what games are on the slate, so he's on top of the weather for every single game. And he's like, I don't know why they are not delaying this game in Pittsburgh because it's going to rain. It's going to rain really, really soon. It's going to rain for a while. And it might have been like some smart gamesmanship because San Diego's at Pittsburgh. San Diego's ahead of Pittsburgh in the wild card standings. Dylan Cease, good pitcher on the mounds, and they had no delay. The home team was in control of that to start the game. And he pitched an inning, I think just an inning. The game was delayed after 2.5 or 1.5 innings or so. 2 hours later, he doesn't come back out. He told us essentially, long story short, he told us all the unders. He's like, look, this game is going to be delayed very, very soon. And thankfully, Cease did not come back. So looks like a really bad DFS night for your boy. But Roth is bailing me out in the gambling streets. So shout out to Roth.
Yeah, not having a good gambling night either on my end. So missed a 3-pick parlay for the first time in like 3 or 4. So way ahead, like 6 for the last or 5 for the last 9 or something. So way ahead on 3-pick parlays. Missed the Sonny Gray, was heavily invested in Sonny Gray strikeout prop. Missed that one as well. So definitely ready to get back on track. Nice little 7-game slate. Dean and I were talking pre-show. This is one of the strongest pitching slates we've had in months. So a lot to talk about. Let's get started where we actually don't have very strong pitching. Baltimore at Toronto, 9.5 total. Baltimore, 145 favorite. We got Trevor Rogers. Bowden Francis on the other side of this game. Dean, any interest here in Trevor Rogers?
No, I don't think so. I am kind of a Trevor Rogers truther. Baltimore traded for him for a reason. There was a quote like that Baltimore's like the coaching he's been getting. He said something to the effect of like, I've gotten more coaching with Baltimore than I ever did with the Marlins in the entire time I was in the organization. Now, he wasn't good in his first start. I still kind of believe he could be good. But you kind of alluded to it as far as the slate as a whole. There's 7 games, 14 pitchers, and 5 starting pitchers throwing baseballs, 28.9% K rate or higher. There's a big opportunity cost at pitcher today. He might be my favorite amongst the cheapies. We'll have that conversation as far as cheap pitchers. It might be Trevor Rogers, but I don't think I want to throw any of these guys out there. Now, there's probably somebody else under 8K we'll talk about, but no. Ideally, I don't want to run either. I don't want to play either of his pitchers.
Yeah, so I decided on the fly here that we're going to do a free Plate IQ preview for the show today. So if you're listening to the podcast and you want to see a free preview of Plate IQ, I'm going to use Plate IQ to break down the slate here on YouTube. So go over to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube, hit subscribe, say thank you, little subscribe button, say thank you. Listen, I think Trevor Rogers overall is a better pitcher than the way that he's been pitching. But I don't think this is the spot I want to play him. Very, very, very tough matchup against Toronto with all these right-handed bats. Other side of this game, Bowden Francis. What a name, right? Had to be like after Coach Bowden, right?
I mean, about that. Yeah, I wonder if he's from Florida. Yeah. It's a good point.
Yeah, I mean that stash too. Like, come on, man. That guy's named after Coach Bowden. Anyway, we're not playing him in this spot. We don't expect him to pitch deep into the game. One of the toughest matchups on the slate. Let's talk Baltimore bats. Because
I apologize, but Stevie, I just Googled, and Bowden Francis is born in Tallahassee, Florida. Oh, you nailed it. That's 100%.
Come on. Yeah. 100%.
That's perfect. Well done. Good job.
Yeah.
Continue.
I didn't even look it up. I promise. That's hilarious. Let's talk Baltimore bats. We're going to see a lot of ownership today on the Mets, as we should. I think Baltimore is the top stack on the slate when you're considering how chalky New York Mets are going to be. Bowden Francis is awful. Toronto's bullpen continues to struggle this year. I think this is a spot to say, we played Baltimore on Tuesday. It didn't work out. Let's go back to the well here on the Orioles.
I did play a lot of Baltimore. They did some pinch hit stuff, which is kind of annoying, and they pinch hit at Kowser, the one-hitter. They pinch hit at Holiday, who homered earlier in the game. Like, now that they've added some depth and Eloy, and they called up the rookie, I can't remember his name now, 2K guy. They keep on calling up rookies. I forget the dude's name, but they will.
Mayo?
Yeah. Mayo took a pinch hit away from Kowser. And the other guy was Slater. Slater came in versus the lefty, Austin Slater, formerly of the Giants. So, my other concern is, how deep is Bowden Francis going to go? He only threw a third of an inning on 8-4. He did throw 5 2/3 before that, but beyond that, he's mostly picked out of the bullpen. Their pen did get a day off, pretty much, because the Hound, Chris Bassett, was really, really good on Tuesday nights. I just don't know how much we're going to get of Francis. And if he gets in trouble, pretty quickly he'll get the hook, I imagine. But I agree. This is one of the best spots on the board. I know Baltimore stunk on Tuesday night. I had a whole bunch of them. It didn't work out for your boy. But if you look at the slate, and of course the Mets are going to pop, and we'll talk about them soon enough, but this looks like one of the best spots on the board. And I will be I'm going right back to Baltimore, and they are cheap. They're still really, really cheap. Depending on who cracks that lineup. Mayo is one of them. Is he still 2K? Let's see where he's at.
He's still
2-2. They had to raise him up to 2-2. He hasn't shown anything yet, but he's one of their bigger prospects, one of the bigger prospects in baseball. Of course, Baltimore loaded with prospects. I imagine he'll crack this lineup. In second base, which is kind of a weak position, Holiday 3-2 looks like an awesome play as well. Westberg, of course, I think it's a wrist. He's out for essentially the season. We'll see if he comes back at some point, but for our purposes of the conversation, he's not available. But Baltimore, one of the best teams on the board.
Yeah, and I did the 6-pack for beer on Tuesday and talked about Jackson Holiday's splits since getting called back up, and he's just crushing. He's just absolutely crushing since getting called back up. 400 ISO. It's going to go up even more because he had a home run on Tuesday night. So going to just keep playing him here. Any interest in the Toronto bats on the other side of this game?
Again, if you line up all the pitchers, 14 pitchers throwing baseballs, Trevor Rogers is probably 10th, maybe 11th or so. So it's one of the better spots. This Toronto lineup is pretty rough. Vladdy, of course, you can always run out Vladdy. It's just not my favorite. Like, I'll get a smattering, I suppose. Some righties against Rogers, sure, are in play. But, Loperfido left on left if he cracks the lineup. Varsho's left on left. I don't love that either. I don't know who to play. Springer just seems like really dusty these days, George Springer. It feels like it's kind of sort of over for him. It's Vladdy or bust, right? He kind of feels like a one-off. But again, we're gonna get through this slate, and like the pitching gets much tougher. So maybe I should be more excited about it. How about yourself? Because I'm not terribly enthused about Toronto.
Yeah, I like them, and it's basically what you just said. The pitching on the slate, like, we have 7 games and we have 14 pitchers, and I think you could play 10 of these guys. So the bats are just slim pickings today. Vlad, we talked about it a lot, right before the break. Like, Vlad had started hitting a lot better. Springer had been hitting a lot better. So, like, I like Springer and Vlad, obviously. Clement is someone that I think you could play here for Toronto. I'm assuming they're going to get some of these lefties out of the lineup, and like a guy like Schneider should be in there, which I think is another guy, maybe more of a mini stack here for Toronto, but I think like Schneider is 2,800 on DraftKings. That price tag is fantastic. So I like Toronto, and it's more of like, again, we're going to get into talking about the pitchers on the slate, and it's just an absolutely loaded slate for pitching. So it's just really hard to play other spots. So moving on, we got Brewers and Braves, 7.5 total. That's a common theme on this podcast. Braves, a 160 favorite. Freddie Peralta, Chris Sale. Any interest here in Freddie Peralta against Atlanta?
I feel like I'm supposed to. I feel like I'm supposed to have some interest, and he's probably. It's really hard to gauge ownership stuff, right? The night before, but I imagine Sale's going to be more popular on the other side of this game. I think Skubal is going to be more popular. He's not that much more. You are getting a meaningful discount. Peralta's all the way down to 8.5. Like Kirby's 8.8. Reagan's is 9K. Taj Bradley's 9.2. I feel like I want to play the ownership game, but like Peralta's in that mix with Sale and Skubal and Bradley and Reagan's and Kirby. And, as much as I want to try to make this Atlanta offense happen, and I like the weather, I like the addition of Soler, they still get shut down a lot. They're just not that good. They're not who I want them to be. I'm trying to force it. So sure. Yeah, absolutely. You can play some Peralta. I just don't know where to prioritize them at this point because a lot of it's probably going to be ownership based.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're not going to worry about ownership at pitching today. I think ownership is just going to be so spread out at pitching today. It's not going to really matter. But I do think he's going to be one of the lower owned pitchers because he's getting Atlanta. And on paper, it's a good matchup. But I mean, word of mouth, Atlanta is still tough. So I don't mind Peralta. I like the strikeout upside against Atlanta. Obviously they're a tougher offense, and we have some pitchers in really good spots. Like even on the other side of this game, Chris Sale. Chris Sale is a guy that just consistently strikes out hitters. 32% on the season. His whiff rate continues to be 28%, and he just keeps pitching well. And you look at this team, really good against right-handed pitching, but very lax in power against left-handed pitching. You got to pay for Sale. I think we're going to pay for him quite a bit today. We got Scoble. We're going to talk about him. We got Cole Reagan's coming up. We got Kirby against Detroit. Like, there's a ton of options today. But strikeout-wise, Chris Sale, one of the highest strikeout upside pitchers on the slate.
Yeah, like Sale is the biggest K guy on the slate, 32.2%. Next is Bradley at 30%. It's all kind of compact, right? Skubal 29.9, and there's Peralta 29.6. So yeah, it's really, really close. This Milwaukee team is pretty contact heavy. The current iteration, depending on what we get on Wednesday, I don't really care just because Sale's a guy that can overcome. But just worth noting, 20.4% collectively as far as the active roster striking out. WRC plus is just over league average at 103. But again, Chris Sale is spectacular. He's probably my favorite pitcher. Just if salary wasn't a thing, if ownership wasn't a thing, probably my favorite pitcher on the board. He does have the lowest Sierra as well at 2.78. Exact same ERA as Bradley. It's so loaded, and it's hard to kind of figure it out. And yeah, I don't think ownership will be a thing, but you never know. Sometimes somebody separates themselves. Like on Tuesday, we had Pablo Lopez was over like 50% owned. We had a lot of pitchers that were good to pick from as well, and that obviously I'm not playing the results, but that was a disaster. Did not turn out well for him, despite the fact the weather was really cooperating as far as a pitching perspective in Wrigley. But yeah, I like Sale and Peralta. I like him plenty as well. And you're getting a meaningful discount if you want to get an extra bat. You're saving almost 2K. This Atlanta team, by the way, striking out fourth most active roster against righties, 25.6% WRC plus 94, which is, again, not spectacular. Their ISO is pretty good, top 7 in ISO. So there is some power, but they will strike out. But tournaments, sure, we'll talk about the bats in a second, but this is a game that's dominated by the arms.
Let's talk about those bats. Any interest here in the Milwaukee bats?
I'm trying to think of one-offs, right? Righty power, one-off. Contreras, I guess, maybe. Rhys Hoskins, I suppose, sure. But there's not a lot there, right? What's there to get excited about? If I'm running 150, I don't run 150. You know that. I usually run, a couple main lineups, and then I'll have a couple other lineups, but no more than like 10. I'm not getting to Milwaukee. I just can't see it happening. Maybe as a one-off, so be it, to get a little different. But not really. Is the long story short, is not really is my answer. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, Hoskins has been hitting the ball decent recently, but Chris Sale is just too good. No interest for me in Milwaukee here. Atlanta, I mean, one of the reasons I would like Peralta is because Atlanta's lineup has just really been struggling with all the injuries. I mean, you could play Ozuna, Riley, Olsen against anybody, but I don't get excited about playing Atlanta in this spot either.
Yeah. I want to be more excited about it. And maybe I just think about last year where, Olsen and obviously Acuna and Albies, like they everything sort of lined up, and they had 3 guys with at least 40 homers last year. They had ridiculous like video game numbers, Atlanta, and it's just obviously it's not the same. They're missing some key pieces, and Olsen's having a bit of a down year. Ozuna, you can always play him, of course, but I have no priorities in this game offensively.
All right, we're moving on. Tampa Bay at St. Louis taking on the Cardinals. 7.5 total in this one. Cardinals a 122 favorite. Taj Bradley, Eric Fetty. Any interest here in Bradley?
Oh man, he is who we thought he was, right? He's finally becoming. He's coming to his own. I know he had that rough start against Miami last time out, gave a couple homers, but he's looking really, really good, and they're letting him go like mid 90s as far as pitches. The tricky part is, again, I hate to keep repeating it, but I don't know if he's a priority on this slate with Sale and Skubal and Reagans and Kirby and Peralta. Where does he fit in that group of 6? I don't know if he's in the podium. He's in the mix. St. Louis, basically a ballpark that plays really, really neutral. I wanted to pull up my numbers as far as St. Louis current iteration against righties. I'm going to guess it's somewhere around league average. 22.3% as far as striking out, 107 WRC plus. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty much a neutral matchup across the board. Power's down for St. Louis, 19th in ISO. But it's not jumping off the page as an incredible matchup, but it's not a bad matchup. And I like Skubal. The tricky part is that Bradley. It's the other guys. But if Bradley's your guy, if you say he's your favorite pitcher today, I'm not going to say that you're bonkers. He's good. Like a lot of other pitchers in this slate.
Yeah, I mean, I like Bradley. I like his upside. I like a lot of pitchers on this slate. It's just going to be a consistent saying. Like, there's nothing I can say bad about him. Like, I think Taj Bradley gets probably 6 righties here, and over the last 30 days, he's striking out righties at a 34% clip. Like, it's starting to click, and we're seeing him just kind of dominate these right-handed hitters. So, yeah, I mean, I think Bradley is a fantastic option. I honestly think Eric Fetty on the other side of this game is a cheaper option. On DraftKings, FanDuel, I think you're going to pay up for pitching as much as you possibly can today. But on DraftKings, where we got to play 2 of these guys, we want to play the Mets, we want to play Baltimore. I think Fetty is interesting. I mean, I'm going to keep saying it, Dean. I think Tampa has one of the worst lineups in baseball. You look at this lineup,
they do. Look at
the strikeouts. Yeah, I mean, I think Fetty is playable here against Tampa.
Much like yourself, I don't remember if you said this on the air or off the air, but I was in the Sunny Gray on Tuesday night for the very reason, like you're staring at on the screen, like the plate IQ, like what you see is there's only one player that's not in the red. Yandy Diaz in the green as far as striking out. Everybody else different degrees of red and pink as far as striking out a ton. And not that Eric Fetty is like this K savant, but you're getting a bit of a discount, and you should get a bit of a boost with this new iteration of Tampa's lineup, where Lowe is at 24%. I like Chris Morel a lot, but he strikes out a bunch. Siri, if you love to see Siri in the lineup, 37% as far as strikeouts. It's loaded. 25.9% was the cumulative K percent. If we're getting the same iteration, I feel pretty good about Fetty. And I said before, there's one pitcher. I guess it depends on where your break line is, what's cheap and what's not cheap. But I was talking about Rogers. I'm like, there's somebody I like that's cheap a little bit more, and that would be Fetty as well. He's the in the old quiz that comes up later on in the show, pitcher under 8K. I don't know which one of us is going to say Fetty first, but one of us is going to claim Eric Fetty. Just again, it's a question of I really want to double barrel the arms tonight. That's kind of my approach, and just figure out the bats. But if I'm pinching pennies, if I'm spending up on several big boys when it comes to the hitters, Fetty is my favorite cheapie on the board.
Yeah, there's so many cheap bats for the Mets that I feel like you're going to be able to and feel good about your lineups. It's just I feel like that is potentially what a lot of people are going to do. Double barrel with Mets. So trying to get different a little bit. I like Baltimore.
Yeah.
They're expensive. I think Fetty comes into play on those like Baltimore builds. Any interest here in the Tampa Bats?
Again, it's probably like one-offs or like minis, that kind of thing. Christopher Morel low as well. Second base is a rough position. It's bad sometimes when we have 11 games. We only have 7 games to play with. It's just all the good hitters just decided to start playing shortstop at the same time, and it's like, where are all the good second? And we also lost Albies, and we lost Westberg, right? So there's just like there's not a lot of good second basemen, but you have Morel and Lowe that are like at least qualifying second. And they have the ability to hit the ball out the yard. So yeah, that's essentially it. I got nothing for you. I can't get excited about like Taylor Wells or Johnny DeLuca, who's a real person. I swear, I saw his picture the other day. He does exist. But yeah, it's not nothing to get excited about.
So Framber Valdez 1 out away from the no-hitter. Bomb to Corey Seager to lose the no-hitter, lose the complete game shutout, gets yanked, and does not get the final out of his no-hitter, but almost no-hit the Rangers there. So
I didn't know that was going on. I see they brought in Hader. That's
yeah.
What a bummer for Framber. I wonder what his pitch count was, because it looks like they had him ready to go. Like once, was it a walk and then a hit? Yeah, walk and then a homer.
Hold on, I literally just had it up. I got open back.
110 or so.
107. So he was actually he pitched really well. I said that I thought he was a terrible play today, so egg on my face. I honestly looking at his. I didn't play him in fantasy, but looking at his stat line, I don't think he would have killed me if I faded. I mean, I faded him. He scored 23 and with a win, so it's not like he scored 35. If he would have finished a no-hitter, complete game shutout, no-hitter, egg on my face. But yeah. As far as the Tampa Bats for me, Brandon Lau, I think is the guy you target here. Fetty, if we look at his last 30-day numbers, he's been really struggling with left-handed power bats and giving up a ton of fly balls. I think that Brandon Lau, Josh Lowe are the two that you want to target here. Any interest in the Cardinals against Bradley?
Not really. I mean, again, I don't want to come out here. Well, I don't want to be the person that recommends everything, but yeah, I mean, look, you want to tell yourself a story about the Cardinals? Go ahead, tell yourself a story about the Cardinals. But I don't really like. I don't like them. I don't really like them. I'm not excited about it. I think Taj is legit. And the ballpark's not great. I don't love the St. Louis lineup. Again, it's just if you want to one-off like a Contreras or something like that, by all means, sure, I suppose. Nolan Gorman hits the occasional homer. They still bury him in the lineup, but he's got the ability to hit homers. We'll talk about second baseman that can kind of, break a lineup. But really, I have nothing in the glowingly to say about St. Louis. They're perfectly average. And, you want to tell yourself a story, go for it. But I see Derek and chat missing Burleson. Yeah, Burleson's got some pop too. But, as a stack, it's a no for me. I know it's a revenge Tommy Pham game, right? Your Tommy Pham series. I believe he homered against them.
Oh my gosh. Get out of here, Dean. Listen, Burleson or Gorman, taking a couple, one of the two power lefties as one-offs, I think is fine, but too many righties in this lineup for me to stack them. Boston at Kansas City, 8 total in this game. Kansas City a 140 favorite. Cutter Crawford, Cole Reagans. Any interest here in Cutter Crawford?
I don't think so. Again, the theme of the slate is you're either very clearly in or you're very clearly out.
You could definitely be picky today.
Yeah, I don't think he's in. I don't think he's in the bucket. Gives up a lot of home runs, gives up a lot of fly balls, almost 50% fly balls, 1.81 homers per 9, and that's not even a crazy homer to fly ball. It's 14.5%. The ERA 3.77. Sierra a little bit higher than that. Been very lucky as far as BABIP for what it's worth, 243. Left on base pretty lucky as well at 76%. No, I don't think it's necessary. It doesn't. No, I'm not getting there. I'm not going to play Betty Crawford.
He's been getting hit very hard, and his BABIP recently is 180. So he's even more potential to be struggling. So the Royals are a top stack for me on this slate. I don't want to play Cutter Crawford today. Again, I think you can be very picky with your pitching. The The other side of this game, I love left-handed pitchers against the Red Sox. They're a much better team against right-handed pitching than they are against left-handed pitching. They're not going to be able to get all these lefties out of the lineup, and Cole Reagan's another guy that I absolutely love his strikeout ceiling. So he's another one that makes the player pool for me today. I don't even think I'm going to set like a min-max for my pitchers today when I'm building like a 20-incher max and just kind of let these pitchers build what they want with the lineup stacks that I want, because I just, it's so hard to say like this guy's better than this guy or this guy's worse than this guy. I mean, I think Cole Reagan's is another guy you could take some shots on today.
Love Cole Reagan's reverse splitsy as far as the strikeouts. You mentioned the lefties and the righties on the season. Reagan's 30.8% striking out righties. He's a lefty, and just 21.2%. So, like, I don't know if I guess you want them to put as many righties out there as possible, and they're going to have some lefties because they're a pretty left-handed team. Also, when is the house coming back? When is Tristan Casas coming back? Is he available anytime soon?
I would assume that he's back for the next series. He's been in AAA rehabbing for like a week now. So I would assume that like next series he's going to get called back up.
Okay, so maybe they probably wouldn't start him left. They probably wouldn't, activate him.
O'Neill might be back here. Like O'Neill's been dealing with an illness, so he might be back for this game.
Okay, so it's not his back. He's actually just was sick. I was wondering why he didn't play on. They gave him just an illness. Yeah, okay, but like you kind of want him in there, right? If you're playing Reagan's, like if you're playing the offense, you want O'Neill, sure, but like the upside of a homer, but you want his strikeouts.
I mean, I think I'd rather have Yoshida in there, even though like Reagan strikes out. Like O'Neill's just such a better hitter, and like the lefties that are potentially in the outfield playing here, like all three of them are bad against left-handed pitching. So yeah, I mean Reagan's, I think he's still good enough to dominate Abreu, Yoshida, or Duran here.
Yeah. So like, do you believe in these reverse splits for Reagan's? You're talking about like ideally, would you want 9 righties? Again, they can't get there. Boston is 2 left-handed. I don't think they can roll out 9 righties even if they wanted to. But are you a believer in those pretty big splits as far as Ks? There were 30% versus righties and 21% versus lefties.
Yeah, I mean, overall, looking at like his pitch mix, I could see why. Like, I don't have Baseball Savant up in front of me, but like changeup probably really effective against the righties. And I mean, his fastball is probably really effective against the righties. It probably has some good movement. But just kind of looking at it, like his pitch mix, he does throw a slider, which typically lefty sliders is one of the hardest things to hit in baseball. So I could see him being more neutral. Even last year, like he had more reverse splitsy. I think it's probably Cole Reagan's has a very good changeup, and usually left-handed pitchers that use a really good changeup against righties is going to do well against righties. So that's probably why we see some reverse splits. Any interest here in the Boston bats?
Not really. I mean, again, O'Neill's a perfectly fine one-off, but overall, I'm not terribly enthused. Who can you talk me into? One of the best hitters, Jarren Duran, who's been awesome this year, but not good against lefties. He smashed righties. Devers strikes out a ton versus lefties. Yeah, 34%. He's been pretty good when he hits the ball, but he strikes out a lot. Wong is perfectly fine, but am I going to play a Wong one-off? Probably not. Yeah, it's not something I'm excited about. I'm more on the Reagan side than the Boston side.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like if Connor Wong was cheaper, you could potentially do like a Connor Wong, but I don't think this is a spot you want to touch Boston. Kansas City, on the other hand, though, like Cutter Crawford's been getting hit very hard recently. I'm a Red Sox fan. I watch a lot of Red Sox baseball. And he's just been really, really bad recently. Really good start to the season. But, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he's not even in the rotation by the end of the year if he keeps pitching like this. I think this is a load up on Kansas City bats type of spot.
I agree with you. I think they're one of the best pivots off of New York. Crawford this season giving up too many homers, 1.81 homers per 9, a lot of fly balls as well. Barrel percentage is at 10.9%, which is probably a little bit too high. So he will strike some dudes out for sure. But I am on the side of Kansas City. Witt is a spectacular spend. I'm curious how much ownership he's going to get with what's going on, in Coors. We'll talk about it in a second. Lindor, I would imagine, will be more popular. Same deal with the Pasquatch, Vinny Pasquantino. As far as Pete Alonso and JD Martinez on the slates. I like KC a fair bit. I really wish they would have added Jazz. I thought Jazz Chisholm would have been an awesome addition for Kansas City. Not that I'm mad that he's in New York. Like, good for him. I think the fans will love him, and he fits that team perfectly, just that city. But I thought it'd been fun if they added like a real piece. They didn't, so we're still dealing with Michael Massey and Adam Frazier and these guys that are hard to get excited about. Massey, I don't mind versus righties, and he probably leads off, I presume. But Sal Perez certainly in play. Kansas City, one of my favorite teams. So I am in lockstep with you as far as the Royals on Wednesday.
All right, moving on. Let's go to Coors. Some potential weather. We'll see what Roth has to say. We always break it down anyway because
What's the weather? You got weather already? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I always look the night before to just kind of get an idea. And there's like potential rain early on in this game. So again, let Kevin Roth do his thing more than anything else. So, all right, Mets, Rockies, 11.5 total. Mets, a 154 favorite. Paul Blackburn, Ryan Feltner facing off against each other. Any interest here in Paul Blackburn?
No, I don't. No. Should I have any interest in Paul Blackburn?
No. Do you see the pitching that we have on this slate? Why are we're not spending time on this guy?
No.
Any interest in Feltner on the other side?
No, I don't think I want either pitcher. No, I'm good.
Yeah, I saw some really good trends with like Feltner, and like he went back to doing everything opposite last start. So this guy is on my shit list. I have nothing but negative things to think on Ryan Feltner. So I'm out. I like the Mets. Let's play the Mets. Hopefully he reverts back to being bad again. I think this is a good spot for Ryan Feltner.
You mean the Mets to pick on Ryan Feltner?
Yes, yes. Sorry,
So,
I was reading chat and got distracted.
Hey, no worries. I'm reading chat as well. Hit that like button, by the way, if you're hanging out in chat. Do subscribe. What are we on the road to, Stevie? How many subs do we have right now for the morning grind?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's like 1,400.
Let's get 2,000 by the end of the year. We can't do that? Let's make that happen.
Yeah, there you go. Dean set a goal. You want to keep seeing Dean on shows. You got to get the subscribe total up.
All right. Shout out to
it just went down 3. Awesome... Oh, my gosh.
Oh, boy.
It went down 3. Oh, it went down 4.
You could have saw that coming.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
This was a bad strategy. It's a bad strategy for sure. It's backfiring. So, you usually make what, 2 or 3 lineups? You're like you play a thing.
Yeah, I typically do. I typically do 1 to 3 like main lineups, and then I love just rolling out. What is it, like $80 in the 20 entry max tournaments and just having fun with like roster construction. So, that kind of stuff. I've taken that tournament down a couple times this year. It's been fun. So I like to do that, like especially on Tuesdays and Wednesdays when I'm doing premium content and do a ton of research.
So main lineup stuff. By the way, breaking news: the Chicago White Sox have a lead after 4 innings. They're up 2-1. So what? 20 is a 20-game losing streak.
21
on the line. Is it 21? Oh, yeah. They might go bust if they go 22 if they were playing blackjack. But all right, yeah. Oakland was like a pretty big favorite. I guess they should be. But Chicago does have a lead in the 5th inning. My apologies, I'm easily distracted. So we like the Mets. I like the Mets. You like the Mets. Chat, whoever's in chat. Yeah, the Mets look great. Are we leaning in on this? Like, it's not a 13 game or a 12 game or a 10 game. It's 7 games. There's a lot of good pitchers. Because it's going to be, I'm not somebody that's like obsessed with ownership when it comes to hitters. Typically, you just kind of get the guys, get the stacks you want. But it's really going to be ridiculous, right? Like they're going to be so popular. We're going to see like Lindor just throwing out a number. Like, what is the number where it's like, I don't need that player, no matter who that player is, no matter how good that spot is? 35%, like 35% owned in a single entry contest. We know ownership rises for the best stuff. The goods are more popular in single entry, 3 entry max because people they're playing their cash lineup or a cash plus lineup basically. What is the number where it's like, what? I don't care how good the spot is. I'm not playing Alonso, Lindor, Nemo, all these guys.
Typical slates, I'd be like 30-35%. This slate, I'm just playing them. I mean, like, I think it's slate dependent, and the pitching is too good today. Like, it's just too good overall to not pick on Ryan Feltner in course. I mean, and Paul Blackburn on the other side. Like, both of these teams, like, my 4 teams that I'm going to load up on are both of the teams in this game, Baltimore and Kansas City. I mean, that's where I'm going to build around. And I'll just play some low-owned pitchers to pair with them because I think pitching is just so strong today. So I'll try to get my edge on pitching today than hitting. But yeah, I mean, it's Ryan Feltner, it's Coors, I think you have to play them. Do play them and do play them differently. You know, build a 5, 6, 7, 8 stack or something. You know, play them differently.
Yeah, because like us saying like the Mets are good, like it's not helping anybody. Like everybody knows this. Anybody listening to this podcast for 5 months into the season, they're aware that the Mets are a strong play. Baseball, goofy stuff happens all the time. I was just curious, and of course, you reserve the right to change your mind, and I do too as well. But my first thought is trying to think of a way to get away from what might be extravagant ownership for hitters. But you know, the spot is really good, and the pivots aren't spectacular. So I don't know, but yeah, try to be different. Of course, if you can. Do you have a best way to be different, or just like is there?
I mean, like I said, I think like building a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stack instead of like just building a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stack. Building a 8, 9, 1, 2, 3. Like building your stack different, I think, is the best way to get different with the Mets today. And again, I think there's going to be some potential for like lower owned pitchers on the slate. So I think you could take advantage of that.
Yeah, you talked about Colorado. Talk about the Rockies because I'm always a little hesitant to play them.
I think they're awful, but I think Paul Blackburn's worse. I mean, he's kind of reverse splitsy, which is nice because like Tovar, Doyle, Rogers are guys you want to play here. McMahon is just in play in general. So I think overall, you're just going to play the Rockies because Blackburn's one of the worst pitchers on the slate, and it's Coors, and they're not overly expensive.
Yeah, I'm always
Chat
a little
tilting
hesitant.
me saying that Butler just robbed Sheets of a home run. That stinks.
Did you have some cheats? I had some cheats too. I had a little bit of Chicago.
He built like he fit into like one of my main lineups on DraftKings. Just the last piece. I ran like Mitchell on one and like Sheets on the other. It was really weird. I ended up in that like price range twice today.
Well,
Melendez just got a 2 RBI double. My 6-pack looking good right now. Like I had Pascantino.
Who was your beast?
My beast was Pascantino, and he scored. He's had a good game.
3 for 4
hits. Yeah. So, and then my pitcher was Luis Castillo, and he's pitching well. So, chat. We always assume you have Sheets. Hey, listen, I like Gavin Sheets. All right.
Is he one of your go-tos?
He's a guy. Yeah, I mean he's a guy. So
did nobody want him? He had to be available, right? Why did he not get traded?
I was shocked that he didn't get traded. I really was. I don't know his contract or anything, but I was shocked that he didn't get moved. So anyway, listen, this is what happens when Dean and I get a show. We always get distracted. Let's move on. Detroit at Seattle. 6 total, Dean. 6. We saw this yesterday. So
didn't work out for the under.
It did not. Seattle's a 126 favorite. Scoble, Kirby. I mean, just 2 really good pitchers. What are your thoughts here on Scoble?
Yeah, I love him. I think he's awesome. I think all the pitchers on this slate are pretty awesome. Skubal on the year, almost a 30% K rate, 29.9%. He's got the biggest swinging strike rate on the slate at 14.5%, 4.8% walks. There might not be a walk in this game from the starting pitchers. Skubal at 4.8%, Kirby on the other side, we'll talk about it in a second, at 2.8%. This is like a home plate umpire's dream. Like these guys are going to be pumping in strikes, and they're not going to get hit, I don't think. But yeah, Skubal is awesome. He's a great pitcher. It's a good ballpark to throw baseballs. We know Seattle, they're happy to swing and miss a fair bit. Of course, they had a bit of a reclamation with the Rosarena, and they added some pieces. Of course, the guys are still out, but we love firing pitchers against Seattle. They still have a 27.1% K rate as far as their active roster versus righties right now, which is the biggest number in baseball. Yeah, I love Skubal. He's great. I don't know if I'm going to like prioritize him, but I would love to get to him. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I don't think you really have to like set your min and max for pitchers today. You just kind of let it fly, and he's another guy. Maybe you set your max at like 30 or 40% or something. But yeah, I mean, this is just another fantastic spot. And I mean, George Kirby on the other side, like talking George Kirby. I mean, Detroit's lineup is atrocious.
Who are these guys?
I mean, yeah, like this is a AAA team right now, especially with Riley Green out. So Riley Green's getting close. But again, like just going to keep playing pitchers against Detroit for the rest of the season, just like Miami and Tampa. These teams are just awful. The White Sox, they're just really bad. So George Kirby is a guy that throws strikes. He has a much higher strikeout rate against righties. There's going to be 5-6 righties in this lineup. Yeah, I like Kirby a lot.
If you can make a bet, we don't have this in the Hard Rock. I looked for it before. Every once in a while, maybe it pops up. I just missed it. But like I see Cardi talk about it sometimes too, where you bet like unders and overs on pitchers' walks. George Kirby is not going to walk anybody tomorrow. Like I said, he's got a 2.8% walk rate. Detroit has a 6.4% walk rate versus righties in the season. That's the third worst. If you can bet like under 1 walks, you can find that in your sports book. I'm just sort of throwing that out there for the people. You can get that some places. Just for us, we're both stuck with the Hard Rock here in Florida. Yeah, it's going to be a well-pitched game on both sides. I don't like any hitter. I like both pitchers. I got nothing else for you.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the hitting, I have nothing that I like on Detroit. And then, like, you can make an argument for a one-off Cal Riley or Rosarina because they're just so good against left-handed pitching. But, I mean, they're facing an elite lefty. Just not a spot I want to have a ton of ownership here. So we finish out the slate. Philadelphia at LA taking on the Dodgers. 8.5 total. Dodgers a 142 favorite. Tyler Phillips, Gavin Stone. Any interest here in Tyler Phillips?
No. I think this is like the pivot, the game that can really shake things up because there's a lot of great hitters in this game. Don't really love the ballpark per se, but I love the players. So I have no interest in either pitcher. We'll talk about them in a second, but I think this is like the really interesting tournament hitters because we talked about Kansas City being the pivot off of New York, Colorado. We talked about Baltimore. Those are probably the first or second pivots. I think this is the spot that can really be interesting. So no, I know you're going to ask me about Stone as well. No for either pitcher. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, Phillips really he's going to keep throwing strikes. But I mean, he got hit really hard last time out against Seattle, and they let him just kind of get out, take his beating in that game, and he just couldn't get out of that second inning. So no interest in him. And I mean, anyone that's ever listened to the Morning Grind before knows that I'm not a huge Gavin Stone fan. I really don't think he's that great. And I think Philadelphia has a lot of upside. I'm with Dean. This is one of those games where hopefully it's the 10 o'clock game. We get a little bit lower ownership because there's only 2 late games. And we load up on some bats. I mean, we'll start with Philadelphia, but Stone's bad to both sides of the plate. His recent stats have been atrocious. Harper, Turner, Schwarber, Bohm, Realmuto, all these guys very much in play. Brandon Marsh towards the bottom. Like, Philadelphia, they're a team that can break a slate, and they're going to be lower owned on this one.
Yeah. I'm thinking about making like a single entry Philadelphia stack and we'll talk about the Dodgers as well. Maybe a little bit of a game stack. I don't do that purposely. If it happens organically, so be it. But I really like the pivots here in this game. Like you said, Schwarber, Harper, Bohm. He's expensive, but he's justified it. Turner is a really good pivot at shortstop away from Lindor. Jack in the bag potential at all time. He can swipe one, he can bang one. It's a revenge game. Nobody slides sweeter than Trey Turner. You would agree with that, I imagine. Who's got the sweetest slide in the game? It's Trey Turner, right?
I mean, De La Cruz has a really sweet slide too, though.
It's pretty good too. Nice.
Yeah, he gets a full extension.
He gets a lot of practice too. He slides a lot. Steals a lot of bases. I think he's close to 60 at this point in the season. But yeah, I love this as like the pivot game. I think this is the best pivot game. But just to walk back for a second, your thoughts on Phillips? He got his face fully punched in last time against Seattle, like annihilated. Gave up 8 runs. 3 homers, didn't get out of the second. He wasn't a big-time prospect. He was overachieving, right? I'm not sure if you dug into it. I wasn't buying it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I dug into it last start because, I mean, anytime you get a pitcher against Seattle that looks decent. But, yeah, I dug into it, and, I mean, just looking at it right now on screen, like, his BABIP was like 190-something going into that Seattle game, and he just been getting very, very, very lucky, and it was just a matter of time, and it just really happened. And, I mean, Cleveland pitching well against Cleveland's really nice, but I mean, his BABIP in that game, complete game, was really very, very, very nice. Yeah, he had run good. Let's talk those Dodgers bats. Obviously, you got Ohtani at the top. Freeman's back. We know what we're getting out of those two guys. What else do you like here for the Dodgers?
I mean, 6'7" for Shohei Ohtani. Like, who's got money for this, man? 6'7"? He's priced like he's like a power forward's height or something, but like he justifies it, right? And speaking of jack in the bag potential, he's swiping a bunch. I think he's 30-30 already this season. He's got 34 homers. Love Ohtani, right? Not going to besmirch. Certainly a better play than Freeman. Freeman certainly in play as well. Betts, by the way, should be back in about a week or so. Just going to put that one in your back pocket. And they already said that Ohtani's probably going to lead off going forward. So I guess Betts will hit second. Anyways, yeah, they're Ohtani's spectacular, Freeman's spectacular. Lux is fine as a cheapie. We'll have to see, you know, what kind of iteration we get as far as the lineup as they get healthier here in LA. Will Smith is just going to be unplayed, right? Like against Phillips, I don't think he's going to get much ownership at all. It's just you're pitching pennies, you're spending up these pitchers, you're spending up elsewhere. It's hard to get to him, but certainly he's got the ability to break a slate and bang a couple outs. I want to be over the field on both these teams, and I don't think it's going to be that hard. And you're getting stud players, I think, relatively speaking, right? There's only, you know, so much percentage points to go around, but only 7 games. It's going to be really concentrated on the Mets, I think. So you're supposed to get, especially in single entry stuff, which is kind of what I focus, single entry, 3 entry max. If I have the balls to play some LA, Philadelphia game stack or something of that sort in a single entry, I'm thinking about it, Stevie. I'm talking myself into it. It's just because you're going to get such low numbers on a single entry contest with really good players and good matchups.
The only problem with the game stack of this game is like both teams are really expensive, so it's really hard to make it work. Just saying. I mean,
Yeah.
I played around with it as you were like talking about it, and like it's really hard to make it work. That's all. Like that's where like Eric Fetty potentially comes in. But I mean, it's doable, like a Fetty Peralta Kirby combo or something. But I mean, again, like, yeah. All right, let's play Dean's favorite game, the morning grind game. So we can hear him complain about it, and I can mute him. We'll go under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts first. You're the guest. You go first. Who do you got?
Oh, yeah. So I think there's only 2 choices here. It's Fetty. I guess there's only one choice, right? The answer is Eric Fetty. Like that's the best. You got a puncher's chance maybe with Rogers, but probably not. Yeah, Fetty's the answer. That's your best bet.
Yep. Fetty, obviously the top option. If I was going to like chase some strikeouts, which I'm not going to on this slate, but if I was going to chase some strikeouts, Blackburn would be the other guy that I'd chase strikeouts. And it's just the Rockies. Like we know they can strike out with the best of them. Over 8K to score under 15. That one's tough today. Who do you got for your bust of the day?
Over 8K. Well, I think Cutter Crawford's the answer, right? He's 8-1. That feels like cheating. Is that the answer? I think it's Cutter Crawford.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's definitely the answer. I was waiting. It's really hard for me in this game because I think everybody else gets there.
Yeah, who do you got? That's a tough call.
Oh man, I don't know. My initial thought, because I had a feeling that you were going to take Crawford. My initial thought was Peralta, but I don't even feel good about it. But I mean, I guess I'll take Peralta.
That's who I would have guessed if I was forced to guess again.
And like Atlanta's been awful, so like Peralta, his range of outcomes is anywhere from like 10 fantasy points to probably like 30. So over 4K to hit a home run, not in Coors. Who's going yard today?
Ooh, let's see. Over 4K, not in Coors. Let's see. Kyle Schwarber?
Oh, I like
Kyle Schwarber?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, Schwarbs.
I'm going to go back to the well on Pasquantino. He didn't hit a home run yet. I don't know if that game's over, but he did have a 3-hit day. He's now hit 16 of his last 17 games, home run in 4 of his last 7. Back to the well here on my boy Vinny P. Dean's favorite question in the world. Hit subscribe to make Dean answer the question under 4K, not in cores, to get 2 hits. What do you got, Dean?
Ooh, okay. Oh boy. Now I'm scrambling to see prices. 1 second. How much is Massey? Can you go first? You have one ready? I don't have one ready. Under 4K or can it be 4K?
No, it has to be under 4K.
Okay.
Under 4K. I mean, I'm going to go back to the well here on Jackson Holiday. I mean, we talked about how much we like Baltimore. He's hitting towards the bottom of the order, which I absolutely hate, but he just keeps hitting. I mean, like, this kid is really good. He's the real deal, and he's showing everybody that said that he was a bust that they were wrong. So give me Jackson Holiday to get 2 hits.
So here's my one concern I'm going to throw out there. I'm going to float it out there. You ready? Because I was going to say another player on Baltimore. They have Bowden starting. I don't know how deep he's going to go. And I'm looking at their bullpen, and the most likely guy to come in and like pitch a little bit long relief would be left-hander Ryan Yarbrough. And we've seen Baltimore, they added some depth to their roster. They're not afraid to take out their lefties, their young lefties. I'm not trying to make anybody paranoid, but Ryan Yarbrough pitched on Sunday, 11 pitches, but he was like 4 days off before that. Didn't pitch on Monday. I don't think he pitched on Tuesday. I guess that's
he just got there, right? Like, he was part of the trade. He just got to Toronto. That's probably why he only threw an inning. So,
I mean, yeah. So I don't.
But
know.
like, Yarbrough is not stretched out. Like, he has only been throwing like 1 inning. It's not like he's very stretched out. So like, I think your concern is definitely valid. But on the flip side of that, I mean, it's still a line or a bullpen that's like full of right-handed pitching. I think they only have 2. They might have 3 now with Yarbrough lefties in the bullpen. So
Cabrera, but he pitched again on Monday. He pitched on Sunday. He pitched on Friday.
Yeah, I already have eliminated him. So they have. Do they still have Little in the bullpen?
Yes, Brandon Little is still in there. He did not pitch on Monday. I don't know if he pitched on Tuesday or not. He did not. But yeah, Cabrera pitched an inning. Green closed it out. The Hound Bassett pitched 7. And it's a good point about Yarbrough. He hasn't been pitching a ton. Like, he's pitched like 2 innings here and there, but not like much more than that. 2 2/3 his last several.
Yeah, I don't think he's a guy that is going to go out there and eat an inning, like eat innings for them. Like, yeah, they were using like a couple other guys, but I don't know. The trade deadline has me still all messed up on like long relievers and stuff. But I think it would just be like a straight bullpen spot, and like, I just don't see like Jackson Holiday getting pinch hit for in the 5th inning. In the 8th or 9th, sure, maybe getting pinch hit for in a situation, but I mean, you're up by like 5 runs too. Like, Baltimore was losing, and I think they were trying to play some matchups with losing as well, because they were part of the 3-pick parlay that lost on Tuesday.
So I'm going to give you this, Stevie. I'm going to give you a hitter that gets 2 hits, but one of those 2 hits is an extra base hit. Okay,
yeah. I'm always chasing home runs with this pick. I just a home run and a double or 2 home runs is fine.
I'm debating a cheap Dodger or a cheap Baltimore Oriole. Cedric Mullins. Give me Cedric Mullins. If he's out, I'll take Gavin Lux. So I'm looking for some. Those are the 2 guys I'm looking at right now. Kind of bouncing back and forth. Not really certain as far as the lineups, obviously. What are we betting?
Dean.
Do you have a betting card filled out as we've talked about there?
We'll get there, Dean. Let me finish the game. I know. Stack to score 6 or more runs. Who's scoring some runs today? Can't be Coors.
Yeah. I want to say Baltimore or KC or you know what? I'm going to say Philly. Let's go Philly.
Right. I like it. I'm going to go Kansas City. I'm going to pick on my boy Cutter Crawford today. My Red Sox. Gonna give up some runs. All right, let's go to the betting portion of the show. Dean, is there any player props or pick 'em plays that you like here night before, or anything that you'll be making a note of, because we are Hard Rock and we can't typically get props up until the morning?
I am bummed that by the way, you're sleeping, but they do come up like 2-3 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
Yeah, I'm
still
yeah.
up.
My kids wake up at like 7 a.m. So yeah, I'm sleeping at 2 or 3 a.m.
I'm usually still up, like watching, like finishing a movie or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or so. So that's kind of when I jump on there and try to pounce if something looks a little bit shaky. I'm just tilting that Josh is telling me in chat that Montero has 7 Ks tonight, and I was thinking about betting Montero, and I made a note of it and just completely forgot. I did have him on one of my main lineups, but I think it had a bunch of, if not Braves, it was Baltimore Orioles. So it doesn't matter. An absolute disaster. He needed like 27 more strikeouts for me to get there. I don't have anything for you as far as a betting line. Let's see. What's the over-under in LA Philly? 8.5. Got to pay 130. I don't like that juice. Anything you're seeing that's kind of standing out to you?
Yeah, so I have 2 as far as props go, and one pick'em. One prop, one pick'em play. The pick'em play is Taj Bradley more than 5 strikeouts over on Underdog, and I like Eric Fetty on BetMGM over 4.5 strikeouts at -140. Those are 2 that I'm looking at here night before. Any other bets that I know you had an extra chance to look at it now? Any other bets before?
I'm not seeing a lot of lines, unfortunately. I'm pulling up the scores and odds, like player prop stuff, and yeah, I don't see a lot out there. But yeah, I wish I could get behind. You got to build a three person parlay, or a 3 leg parlay.
Yeah, we call it the morning grind 3-pick parlay. That's fine. You're getting there, Dean. We'll have to have you on more so you can get the hang of it and everything.
What's the third leg? I only heard 2 legs.
No. Those were just props, and so now we go to the 3-pick parlay. Like I said, you're getting it, Dean. You're getting it. So 3-pick parlay for today for everybody. We have the Kansas City Royals money line over Boston. It is -145 on the Hard Rock. Baltimore -150. We talked about both of those teams. I think both of those teams are in really good spots today. And then I'm going to go to an earlier game that we are not covering in the podcast, but it's Cincinnati money line against Miami. The pitcher from Miami, Belzo, or whatever his name is, Belzo. He's not good. So attacking the Reds in that one, and it's plus 369. Missed on Tuesday, made on Monday. Let's get back on track here on Wednesday. That is the 3-pick parlay for the morning grind today. Baltimore money line, Kansas City money line, and Cincinnati money line. Dean, any final thoughts?
I was just curious, as like a general thought, do you ever dabble in the run line streets? Those are a lot of fun, but can also be really painful.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I try like my goal every day is to be like plus 350 or better with something that I feel very confident with. And I feel very confident in those 3 games. So I think those 3 teams should win on a high majority of outcomes. So getting it at plus 369, I feel good about that. So that's what I
was thinking about.
When
KC,
I'm doing
KC plus 130 is -1.5. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the run line in that instance is good. I also like betting team totals. Like, I'll do that from time to time in the 3-pick parlay, because that if you have one that you like really like, it'll bump it from like 350 to like 500 typically. Getting those team totals up, so that kind of stuff. I just, again, I'm trying to win, Dean. You know, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make money. So
100%. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right, it's going to wrap it up for Wednesday. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the free preview of the Plate IQ. If you like that, make sure you comment below on the YouTube video. Tell us you like it so we can keep doing it. Hit subscribe. We're back tomorrow talking baseball. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you then.